Hi, I'm Chef Cristian Feher here to show you how to use a pressure cooker. Now here I have two basic types of pressure cookers. I have your conventional or passive pressure cookers, and I have an electric pressure cooker. So we're going to get into what they are, what they do, and why you should get one. Now the way that a pressure cooker works is actually quite simple. So here we have a pot, and inside of it we're going to add whatever food and a certain amount of liquid. Now that liquid is going to come to a boil and steam's going to form. Now that steam can't escape, okay, or actually very little of it can escape. So it actually starts to build up pressure and build up pressure, okay, till it's about 8 to 15 pounds per square inch. And that hot pressure is just going to kind of cook that food at really, really high heat, moist heat. And what that does is you end up with really, really soft meats, very well cooked soups, sauces, and things like that. All right, so let's start by going over the first kind of pressure cooker, which is a conventional pressure cooker. I like to call it a passive pressure cooker because unlike the electric one, it doesn't generate its own heat. It depends on the heat from a stove to work. Okay, so basically what this is, it's a pot and the lid kind of comes out. It's sealed, and I'll show you what it's sealed with. Now up here on the handle of this one in particular, and most of them have two valves. Okay, so this one has pressure regulating valve, which regulates between low pressure, which is about 8 pounds per square inch, and high pressure, which is 15.2 pounds per square inch for this one. Okay, most pressure cookers have a dual range. Some just have high pressure. If you can only get one that has high pressure, that's good, because I do most of my pressure cooking at 15 psi, and I'm sure you will be too. Okay, so this little valve over here, if this thing boiled too much and it just had too much pressure and that steam just had to get out, this security valve here would pop and it would let that steam escape. Okay, so that's the safety feature for this. Okay, in the olden days they had a big stopper and it would, probably shoot a hole through your ceiling, and then you'd get kind of a steamy mess all over your kitchen. Now this will actually probably make, like a spraying mess in your kitchen, but it won't make any holes in your ceiling. Okay, now if you take off the lid, right under here you have a rubber ring. Okay, and that's the sealing ring, and that is basically what is going to keep that steam from escaping the pot. All right, and inside of it is just a regular pot. Okay. Now over here you have my electric Cuisinart pressure cooker, and as you can see, it's a little beat up, and I was thinking about getting a brand new one out here, but then I actually thought, I want to show you this. This thing has been, you can see it's got kind of dents all over, it's been kicked, it's been dropped. This particular unit has cooked about, I would say, over 300 different dishes, and it still works just like it did 4 years ago when I bought it. So I kind of wanted to show you that this is a really good quality electric pressure cooker, and regardless of how it ends up looking after 4 years, it works just the same. So it's a really good quality product. And again, I'm not being paid by Cuisinart. This is just my own personal opinion. This is so far my favorite kind of electric pressure cooker. Okay, so just like the conventional or the passive one that we had, it has your pressure regulating valve up here. It has your pressure valve up here, and it opens up just the same. And over here, you have, again, kind of a steam plate with your rubber sealing gasket. Okay, so that's your main parts for a pressure cooker are your valves, your lid, your sealing gasket, and these all come apart and can be cleaned pretty easily in a dishwasher. Now the difference with this one obviously is that it generates its own heat. You plug it in and it does that. Another advantage that this has versus the conventional one is that for the conventional one you kind of have to babysit. I mean, you gotta put it on the stove and you have to regulate the heat yourself so it doesn't build up too much pressure, and then that safety valve will have to be used. Now this one has to fail probably like between 5 and 7 different ways. So this is kind of built how NASA builds things, where they put like 7 safety catches on everything, so it would have to fail just perfectly and exactly in that way. So basically what I'm saying is that this machine just will not fail. Okay, the very worst that could happen to it, it would just turn off and not work anymore. It's very, very easy to use. Okay, and in the front, you see this panel here. And this panel has really clear, easy to read buttons and numbers. And it's a dual system. It has low pressure and has high pressure. I'm assuming the low pressure is about 8 psi, and I'm assuming that the high pressure is somewhere around 15 psi, just like this one. Okay, so that's the basic difference between your electric and your passive. Now I'm going to show you how to use each one. So I'm going to start off by showing you how to use the electric pressure cooker, and then I'll show you how to use the conventional. All right, now before we start, for this particular model, there's a little tip or a little trick that I want to share with you, which took me about a year to get. Okay, so when you put this plate on top of or inside of the lid, okay, you'll see this little knobby here. All right, so this little knob here has to be spun this way for this thing to work. Okay, so let me show you why. See that valve over here? Now, if that little knob lays on top of that valve, the pressure locking system won't work, and you'll never actually get the timer to start. Okay, so always take this little knobby and go as far away as you can from that top valve, and you will be golden. All right, so what I'm going to cook here is a spaghetti squash. Very simple. You just put it inside the pressure cooker. Now, most pressure cookers that are around this size, so they're about 6 quarts, can work with just a minimum of 1.5 cups of water. Always read your manual, but I know this one's 1.5 cups of water. So I'm going to add just, I think, about 2 cups here. All right, I'm going to put the lid on it, lock it, and then I'm going to just put on the timer. Menu, high pressure. I'm going to choose, in this case, 8 minutes, and I'm going to click start. And that's all there is. Once this builds up pressure, it'll just count down its own timer, and it'll shut itself off. You don't have to worry about it, okay? Very easy. All right, our timer's gone off. So now we just switch it off. See, right now you can still hear a little bit of steam escaping. There's still a lot of steam under pressure in this pressure cooker, okay? And it's going to go out through this escape valve over time. So if we let this sit for anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes by itself, the steam would gradually escape and the pressure would come down far enough so that this locking mechanism would disengage and you'd be able to open up the lid. So that's natural pressure release. Now we can do a quick pressure release, which means that I can release the pressure on it right now, and so that's what we're going to do. Now, if you have a lot of liquid in here, it's better to let it wait. But if you have, we only have about 2 cups of liquid in there, so the top, 3/4 of this is all steam. So it's not going to start spraying out water with the steam. It's just going to spray out its steam. So we're going to do a quick pressure release. Okay, this is a little tricky maneuver. You may be able to do it with some oven mitts or with tongs. I just like to get in there and quickly do it with my fingers. There we go. So that steam is now escaping, and there goes the locking mechanism. So now I'm going to be able to turn this lid. The locking mechanism is disengaged, and I can remove it and take the spaghetti squash out. All right, so I take my spaghetti squash out. And there you go, perfectly cooked spaghetti squash in 8 minutes. So this gives you a good example of what a pressure cooker can do. Now we're going to move on to our conventional or passive pressure cooker. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to use a passive pressure cooker. So I have it here on the stove. All right, I can see that this is the pressure release valve or the emergency valve, and here's the pressure regulating valve. Okay, so in this case, we have a number 1 and we have a number 2. Okay, so number 1 is low pressure and number 2 is high pressure. All right, so I'm going to set this to high pressure. Now I'm going to cook something that most people have to boil for hours, and that is a nice big beet. Okay, usually you'd have to boil it for an hour or 2, but in the pressure cooker, we're going to do it for 15 minutes. So first step, I'm going to take the lid off. Okay, I'm going to put in my beet. I'm going to put in about 2 cups of water. All right, seal it up. So I'm going to put this on high. And I'm just going to wait till this starts to boil. And then I'm going to turn it down on my stove to about 4.5. So it's about medium, medium-low. And we'll just kind of keep that steam going. All right, so now it's going. The safety valve just popped, which means the pressure is now starting to build. Okay, on this particular cooker, since it is stainless steel and the heat builds up so quickly, this only took me about 2 minutes. All right, so now I'm going to turn this down to 4.5. All right, and I'm going to give this 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to give it so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it 5 minutes to reach that perfect temperature, and then another 15 minutes to finish cooking, and then we will have perfectly cooked beet. All right, so 15 minutes is up. I'm going to let the pressure out of this one. And now that the pressure's been released, I can open up the pot. And I can take out my perfectly cooked beet. And that's all there is to using pressure cookers. If you have any more questions, please ask below. I'll do my best to answer. For more videos, blog articles, and recipes, please visit foodchaintv.com. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.